Good afternoon, Cherries fans, and welcome to this latest opposition preview show here on Up the Cherries and All Departments. It's the big one. And of course, Burnley visit Dean Court this weekend. Bill Foley is in town, so he will be watching this match as well from the sidelines. Andoni Iraola, 3 points from 9 games, 0 wins. It's not good reading. However, he has got this opportunity to face a Clarets side who are in a similar sort of problem, playing a similar sort of style to what AFC Bournemouth did. Also, this Clarets side were promoted last season, and it's the first of the newly promoted sides that we're coming up against. To preview this game, and this huge game, which is really a must win, not just for us, but for Burnley as well. It is a pleasure to welcome on from Turf Moor House, Dan. Welcome, Dan, to Up the Cherries in All Departments. How you doing, mate?
I'm all right. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, Craig. How are you?
Yeah, all good, apart from the football. And it's been a strange start to the season for ourselves, but also a strange start of the season for Burnley. And the reason why I say that is everybody, tipped Burnley to do pretty well this season. Considering how convincingly he got out of the championship. I know it slipped a little bit at the end, didn't it? When
Yeah.
he was getting closer and closer and closer. Did he take his foot off the gas? A lot of managers have done that in the past, but it it's a strange one. Talk us through it.
Yeah, I mean, promotion was probably not what Vincent Kompany was expecting. I think when he took the job, he looked at us as a 2 to 3 year plan of bringing some young players, nurture them, get them used
Mm,
to the English style of football, his way of thinking, and then think about promotion. However, he's done it at the first time of asking. He put a really good, strong squad together. And it was probably one of the best years ever. I mean, the championship, God, I still miss it now. No VAR, everything. It was a
I
blessing in
know.
disguise. But you get promoted and you've got all that elation and excitement and can't wait for the season to start. Then you think, where's all this money come from that Burnley is spending? I think we're linked with every single player that was valued at 15 million, I think.
Yeah.
So it were you just thinking, who's took out a bank loan, who's robbed a bank, what's going on here? Burnley don't even usually have enough to root through the bargain bin. So for us to start having money to spend, it was a case of trying to spend it wisely. I mean, we brought in the League One keeper of the season in James Trafford from Bolton, League Two team of the season, Lawrence Figaro from Leyton Orient. I know he's probably back up, but we've still sort of kept that tradition of looking in the lower leagues for a bargain and hoping to try and find someone decent. Although I can't say bargain in today's money, can you really?
No.
But no, I mean the transfers haven't been too bad, but it's just the fact that we've bought very young players of inexperienced. It's a complete different contrast to the Dash era and the Company era. Dash went for a mix of both. People that have been there, done that. Yeah, latter stages of their careers, around 30, 32. But they've been there. They took the hard knocks. They'd had the kicks. They knew what they was getting themselves in for. And also, it was that voice in the dressing room. I think that's what we've got missing. We've got such a young squad that there's naivety in there, inexperience, and maybe again, I'm sort of contradicting between the Dash and Company situation. Under Dash, it was like he never makes any subs, he doesn't change it, and with Company, it's like he makes subs, but he changes it too much, and it's just that being a fickle football fan, isn't it? You can
Yeah.
never you're never happy until it's going right, and at the moment, as we both know, for our teams, it's been a bit of a struggle in this opening few games.
Let's go back to the Dyche era because, of course, Dyche kept Burnley in the Premier League for many years, and it was playing that anti-football, that long ball football. But I guess was it exciting to watch? Are you happy that the style has changed, or What's your general feeling about the Dyche years?
Looking back now, it's obviously a completely different outlook of football that we're getting.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd see Burnley playing it out from the back, possession-based football.
Mm.
Players finding pockets of space. When you've just got 11 people, almost like table football, where you've just flicked it from the keeper up to your striker. That's how it used to be under Dyche.
Yeah.
Um, it was almost quite static, really. But it got us results. I mean, I look at the season we got promoted against we lost to QPR in the Championship season
Yeah.
because we got Burnley. They did what we did. We peppered them
Hmm.
with everything, but they got the result. And I think that's what Burnley was sort of built on under Sean Dyche, that we take the knocks and then we'll try and catch you when we can. We right now under Kompany are doing completely different thing. We're trying to match the opposition. And I think what we've forgotten is we are Burnley. That's
Hmm.
got to be the thing that we need to realise. Yes, you've got a vision of where you want us to be. Yes, you've got this plan of where you want to take us. But right now, just remember, we are Burnley. We have only just been promoted. 17th and above is a good season. I know for Kompany that's not going to be enough because, in his mentality is, I'm a winner. I've got to go out and we've got to do these things. 17th isn't good enough, but you've got to be realistic. Head and heart say different things. I'd love mid-table, like I'd have said
Yeah.
before a ball were kicked, but you can tell the contrast because the old guard, in terms of supporters, pre-season when we saw Kompany's style sort of just being implemented last year, there was people down at Shrewsbury going, "What's he doing? Playing it out from the back? Knock it long,
Mm.
knock it long." And it's something that they're going to have to get used to. We're so expansive that sometimes it leaves us prone to attacks, and playing that high line as well. Something that we didn't really do under Dyche. It was pretty much stick everyone on the line, park the bus,
Yeah.
and then try and just pump it long with one player. But yeah, the difference is massive, massively huge. The football is so much better to watch these days. Nothing wrong with the way the football is played. We can all see how much the leagues adapt and how football changes, and it's an adapt or die business.
Yeah.
That's why the likes of managers like, I think Dyche is probably one of a dying breed, really. Of your big Sams and things like that, your old school managers. So yes, it's exciting to watch, but if it's not getting your results, is it? Is it a case of, oh well, let's just hope, or would you rather go back to what you knew? It's a little bit of a tomato situation.
Yeah. And we feel it as well, to be honest, this season, because we've gone from Gary O'Neill, who was getting the results, not always the most attractive football, to Andoni Iraola, who initially started playing, very, very attractive, expansive football, again, playing out from the back and then moving forwards. Now, Eddie Howe used to do that, but in a completely different way. As you know, Bill Foley is in the UK. He arrived, I believe, yesterday. And I think that only spells trouble for him, that this could well be his last game. And my big question to you is, Vincent Kompany started playing this expansive football for Burnley in the Championship. Do you feel it's easier to do it, to start off in the Championship and then get promoted with a team playing that way rather than just change it when you're in the Premier League?
It was strange because we've had such a change at Burnley Football Club where,
Yeah.
like I said, Dash left and everyone's questions were timing was a bit off, a few days before a game, and then the season ends and you're just thinking, where do we go from here? But everything changed. The infrastructure of the club, the management, the players, the staff. We lost big players. When you look at Burnley, you'd mentioned the likes of Tarkowski, Ben Mee, these players that, when you lose Pope, Ben Mee and Tarkowski, that pivotal three that were at
Yeah.
Burnley at the time, that's a massive loss. And then you're thinking, what do we do defensively? Our two main centre backs are gone. Our keeper, who's kept us in games for numerous seasons now, has jumped to Newcastle. Where do we go from here? And yes, bringing Company in, you've got that lure of getting those players in. But like you say, it is a scary business. I look at the Gary O'Neill situations as you were saying there, and we all know it's a bit of a cutthroat area is with
Mhm.
managers. I think whether you agree or not, I think Gary O'Neill wasn't really given a fair crack of the whip. Looking from the outside,
Yeah.
I thought he should have been given a lot longer, especially the job he did on the interim basis. I think sometimes people are too heavy, and sorry, not too heavy, but too quick to make a decision on something. We've gone down under Dyche before and come back up, and then the season after achieved European football. So, sometimes it is a risk or reward business. We all know that. This game has got the markings of everything. Company will want a bounce back result after the Brentford defeat. You know, the manager's got your manager's got a lot of questions hanging over his head now. Of if we get beat to a fellow relegation candidate, which is where we are at the moment. Let's be real to it.
Yeah.
Am I gone? Am I out of a job? And like you said, with Big Bad Bill back in the UK, it's not looking good for Iraola, is it?
No, not at all. And I honestly believe in, looking, and I can make comparisons with Burnley. Now, if Sean Dyche, of course, when Sean Dyche left, Burnley did go down. But say, for example, it was, earlier on in the season, and you made the change to a manager that plays like Vincent Kompany. Because you have those players that play in the Dyche style, I couldn't see you surviving by
No.
changing that whole strategy. And likewise, if Gary O'Neill after the World Cup was replaced by Andoni Iraola, which I believe, hand on heart, that was always the intention, because the players we were signing, and those players were signed by Richard Hughes, were more Andoni Iraola players, not Gary O'Neill
Yeah.
players. Personally, I think we would have gone down, had we replaced Gary O'Neill with Iraola, because it would be a change of style, and the players just have not adapted to that style. The one big question, though, for you, Dan, is that we have a side that are playing that type of football, and you've got a side that are playing that type of football. And it's probably the first time this season we've come up against a team that is on a similar level to us. And I don't mean that disrespectfully, on a
No,
similar
no.
level to us, who play that style. Is it a case that we could cancel each other out? Is it a case that um, we could well see the big failings of either Iraola or Company this weekend, couldn't we?
Yeah, I think this is one of them games where, from a managerial perspective, other managers will be sitting in looking and thinking, this is the perfect game to pick out the flaws of each team. Um, two teams battling hard to get themselves out of a dogfight. I know it's still early, but it's still a dogfight wherever you are. Points count for prizes, don't they, at the end of the day?
Yeah,
And I think from a Burnley perspective, we've got to look at the season we got promoted. I weren't going to bring it up, but obviously, when we knock you out the cup, we've got
yeah,
to look at that and think, right, we've sort of already done it with a championship squad, so why can't we do it with a Premier League squad in terms of go to the Vitality Stadium? I'm going to call it Dean Court then.
yeah.
Um,
I still do.
but but it's we're going back there again. Hopefully, with a bit of we've been there, we've done that. Let's try and do that again. I think it's different though. Obviously, we had the momentum with us last year in terms of with the championship, and I don't know whether it's one of them where it's harder to scout a team because of the division they're in or etc. I'm not fully clear up on that, but you've got it spot on. This could be one of those games where it either cancels each other out or one team absolutely crumbles and someone's in for a thrashing. Um,
Yeah.
it's it's such a hard one to predict. I couldn't put a scoreline on this. It's definitely one that if you're a betting person, you just leave this game alone. I wouldn't touch it.
Completely agree with that. And to be fair, I am worried because of course, everybody tipped Burnley to be doing a lot better than they are.
Yeah.
And I think, hand on heart, I think Burnley will come through. But that's not good news for ourselves, because at this moment in time, it is looking like a bit of a mini league of the
Yeah.
three promoted teams. Um, I think Sheffield United are, it's quite clear that they're very poor and they're probably going to be cut adrift. Um, of course, yourselves and us, and Luton, who haven't really, and we was talking a little bit before we come on air about the amount of money that Burnley has spent, but Luton, who have come into this league, and they haven't spent much money at all because of their new stadium, and but they just seem to be giving it a go and having that real. They're just grinding things out, and that bit of a dogfight, really, that they're in.
Yeah, you see it with a lot of teams that sometimes they get promotion and then
Hmm.
follow, they sort of keep that momentum going. You look at
Yeah,
players like Tom Lockyer, who obviously got a nasty injury in the playoff final, but managed to come through. He's doing really well at the at Premier League level. The thing is with Luton, it's that old school feel, a little bit like ourselves, and your stadium as well,
yeah,
where you tight knit, your fans practically feel like an extra player on the pitch because you're so close. Um, so maybe opposition teams feel a little bit of intimidation there. It's not the nicest place to go to, is Luton away.
yeah.
I think everyone can say that, but it's they've got the grit, they've got the determination to go forward. Who'd have thought a manager that managed their rivals in Watford would take the job there and get them promoted?
Yeah,
You know what? Fair play to Lynn. Like I said to you off camera, that they remind me of a Huddersfield or a Blackpool. They're just going to throw all their eggs in one basket and go, let's go for it. We barely got a pot to pee in. We are working on a shoestring, and let's see if we can go toe to toe with the big boys. And you know what? They've shown resilience, quite good resilience so far this year. It could come back and bite them. Who
hmm,
knows? But time will tell. Right now, I think they need to keep riding that wave. However, for us, we hope they crumble at the next the next match week. But no, they're a really good, strong, tight knit side, and I think that's what we need to go back to. Both our clubs really. That let's forget about personalities and egos and who's who's playing where, what, whenever on the pitch. Remember that we're all in this together, and we've somehow got to find a way to get out of it.
and that's what Sean Dyche and Eddie Howe did when they got our
Yeah,
respective clubs promoted. Those years ago, is we didn't go out and break the bank. We didn't spend loads of money. What we did was we kept what we had, like the likes of Mark Pugh and Simon
yeah,
Francis and Steve Cook and Tommy Elphick, took those players into the Premier League. Okay, took them a couple of games to adapt, but when we got that win over West Ham, it was remarkable. It felt like we'd arrived and we built from there. And that's the sort of thing that they're doing, but it's the sort of thing that we've lost now. And it seems like Burnley have lost it a little bit by spending all this money. Um, apart from the players that you've mentioned, have you been quite impressed with the business in the summer or not really?
I have, and I can't really say that I could sit here and question companies' transfers because
Mm,
the season we got promoted, everything went right.
yeah,
So who am I to question somebody who's got it right? I mean, the only thing I could probably say is why haven't we brought the bank to bring in a left back instead of leaving it till deadline day? And Nathan Teller, I'd have loved to have seen him back in claret and blue.
yeah.
He should have been priority, which from what I've heard was. But Southampton were going through some sort of company or something to deal with their transfers. So it weren't going through the club itself, which is,
It's
completely alien
bizarre,
to
isn't it,
me.
what happens down
Yeah.
there?
So they've got their own way of doing things backwards, but hey ho.
Yeah, yeah.
But
You're allowed
no,
to say that on here.
yeah. But they're the business hasn't been too bad. The thing for me is we've got rid of. I don't like scrutinising our own players, but for me, I'd have sold Rodriguez this season,
Mhm.
and I'd have kept hold of Ashley Barnes.
Yeah.
And it's not even so much for game time, but that older head in the dressing room. I know Gio Rodriguez is 32, but for me, Ashley Barnes is, even he's like a Jamie Vardy to Leicester. He's sort of irreplaceable. He's been there. He's done that. He can sit. Give a team talk. I mean, Burnley released a documentary, and you can see the analysis into what goes into everything, and
Yeah.
Kompany talking about the trajectory of after 10 games, where we are, what we're doing. The transfers have been good. I think obviously inflation in the market is just one of them things. I'm starting to sound
Mhm.
like Sean Dyche now. Inflation in the market, but it is what it is. It's part and parcel of football. We spent 19 million on James Trafford.
Mhm.
Is that good business for a keeper that's only proven in League One but playing in the Premier League? A lot of fans are asking for Muric back. I won't lie. A lot of fans are asking for him back. But you see some of the goals we've conceded. They've been screamers. A lot of it. I think we had 3 goals against us in the goal of the season last month.
Yeah.
So it says something. We've not got that strong defensive unit that we once had
Mhm.
because of us trying to be so expansive. We're so prone to that counter and fast attacks that we start to falter. I'm so glad we shared up Jordan Bayer on a permanent. He was number one stalwart for me. Brilliant. Well, I have no doubts he will be in the German national team at some point. Don't
Yeah.
reckon he'll still be wearing claret and blue, but he'll definitely be in and around that. We've done all right business wise. We spent over 100 million. I never thought I'd see Burnley ever do that. Let alone see us play in Europe or it's all pipe dreams. I mean, I'm 32 and I've seen this. I always used to think that we'd purposely crumble around Christmas in the Championship. Under the Stan Turner days, I'm going that far back.
Yeah.
Every Christmas we just nosedive. But yeah, it's a positive time to be a Burnley fan. But I think you're always going to have that section of the fan base that want quick wins, quick results. And we've got
Mhm.
to remember that this is still a process. Kompany came in, like I said at the start, with a 2 to 3 year plan. He's now had to think, oh, hold on a minute, we've already got promoted. Now what do I do? Uh,
Yeah.
so are the players that he's brought in a 2 to 3 year plan? Is safety going to be enough for then another extra few years? We're all right. We'll see. But time will tell on some of the players because for me, I'm just a little bit tad annoyed that there's 2 or 3 players that got us promoted that haven't been trusted to
Mhm.
play in the starting 11. I think that's more of a frustration from a fan perspective.
You mentioned there as well that you're susceptible to counterattacks, and likewise, we found, well, I say counterattack, but it was probably just under 2 minutes that Wolves scored that equaliser last Saturday, and well, that that winner for Wolves was just a bit of a disaster if you saw it, Dan.
Yeah, yeah,
But that's not the first time that's happened, against Brighton 16 seconds after kickoff. And it feels like we are probably in a similar boat, probably in a similar boat. Whereas, if we went back to basics, like what we was doing last year under Gary O'Neill and playing that style of football, it wasn't as attractive to watch. I think those players would be, because apart from Jefferson Lerma, that squad is the same. And
yeah.
it the thing that really irks me is that if we went back to what we was doing and abandoned this style, I think we'd pick up points. And do you think, if Vincent Company changed his style to something that was a little bit more direct, don't get me wrong, not Sean Dyche, long ball, but something a little bit more direct, do you think you could you'd be able to pick up the more results than you have done?
Probably, probably, yeah. I think because we're trying to emulate that Man City esque style
Yeah.
of trying to be. very resilient at the back, but not really having to be resilient because you're relying so much on the attack to be doing the business. However, again, it goes back to what I said. We're just Burnley. We're not Manchester City, and I think that's what people need to realise, that you've come from that privileged opportunity that you've had as a player. Forget that. Yes, implement it all you want, but make sure it works when you do. Mix it up. It's all well and good playing the gegenpress, but add some tiki taka to it, or zonal, marking and things like that. Add these little extra bits that you could sort of tweak. I mean, in the championship, we saw little tweaks to it, that we're playing it out from the back, tiki taka, but there was also Muric pumping a long ball over to Teller, who's on the shoulder of the last defender, and we'd get goals that way as well. I mean, our keeper must have been what, third or fourth in our assists, last
Yeah.
season. So you're almost a little bit like, where's that gone? Where has that little bit of mixed play gone from us? I just want a little bit more fire. I mean, that Brentford game showed us how weak we were. I think Kompany said it himself. We were not Premier League standard, and it's nice to hear a manager come out and say those things, because we've had so many of the same boring old excuse under Dyche. Was, oh, it's the fine margins, it's this, it's that, it's everything else.
Yeah.
We can't compete in the market. Yeah, you've tried that one at Everton as well, Sean. It doesn't work. But no, something's got to give, and sometimes, I mean, again, I think I said it not so long ago. The trajectory, when you watch the documentary, it says after 10 games, we started to peak. We're starting to see cohesion. We're starting to see, different aspects of the play where these players are going. But we didn't really change the team that much that season. This season, we're changing it. That's what annoyed me. That when we beat Luton, you'd have thought that same team that won at Luton would have played the week after.
Yeah.
No, completely changed it. I think there were about 6 changes, and you're just like, ugh, why? Why have you done this? That and the fact you're playing Chelsea. So, he's put players in. Yes, he has to give everyone game time. He doesn't want unhappy players in there, but don't spend so much money on a bulk of players that you think you can just chop and change and it's going to work. I have I have no doubt in my mind that Kompany will be a success. But right now, he's showing the naivety of the likes of these former players, in the likes of Lampard and Gerrard. When it comes to the Premier League, it is a different kettle of fish, and that's where they're tactically being found out.
And you're echoing pretty much everything that I've said about Bournemouth as well. And it feels like both sides are on exactly the same level, doing the same things. It's all well and good playing this lovely style of football, playing like Man City and Arsenal, but you're not Man City and Arsenal when you can't
Yeah,
compete with those teams because of the players. But then you have a game against Everton, for example, and we got beat 3-0 by Everton recently, possibly one of the worst performances in the Premier League. It's got to be right up there with the 9-0 thrashing by Liverpool. That was bad, but that was, very much down to, how we set up on the day. And of course, it's Liverpool, it's not Everton.
yeah,
Um, but you're bullied by those sort of teams. So you can't play that
yeah,
way against the lower sides. But you can't compete with those top teams. Let's go on to actually, I think it'd be quite a good time to touch on Sean Dyche and Everton, because there's a lot of talk at the moment. They're going to get deducted 12 points potentially, which I'm a bit divided on this. Whilst it'll be good for us, and I'm sure it'll be good for you as well. Yeah, at the same time, it feels like you punish Everton, you've got to punish Man City.
yeah,
And where does this buck stop? And is that going to potentially be the reason why Everton get away with those charges? Because they're well within their right to do so. Say, what are you doing about the Man City situation? They've got 115 charges. We've got one.
Yeah, I think the only difference is if you've got enough evidence against one case, it's probably pretty quick to squash that opportunity. Where instead of trying to get evidence of 115 cases,
Yeah.
I mean, it can be difficult in that sense. But then yet again, this is the Premier League, the FA, and everything else. It's there is backwards as the next person.
Mm,
So it's it's harsh, but it's reality. If they have broke the rules, then I think there should be some comeuppance. Would I rather us stay up due to our own team merit? Of course,
yeah.
but I mean, look at the animal Aston Villa have become, and where they would have been if it wasn't for goal line technology that was not ruled. So
Yes.
you know
Yeah.
we've got these situations in football that are thrown about. Villa are now an absolute powerhouse under Emery, where they
Mhm.
could have been back in the Championship.
Yeah.
Um, it's look, look. I mean, you do fear because Everton have been a stalwart of the Premier League, never relegated alongside Arsenal. It's one of them old clubs that have died hard and done really well. Obviously, as well, commiserations, not commiserations, but sorry to any Everton fan, mourning the loss of Bill Kenwright. Obviously, did a lot
Yeah.
for Everton as well. And it's just recently with Everton that there's been the issues. Uh, my stepdad's a blue, so it's always fun to rib him a little bit about it. And obviously, we play Everton in a cup midweek as well next week, so that should be fun. But um, like I said, I'd rather stay up on merit. But if it means we get to stay up, if it means both of us stay up,
Well,
I'm not going to argue the case. I'll tell you that.
no, completely agree, mate. Completely agree. Well, I think with two similar teams, we have to we do this all the time, but this is going to be a difficult one. How can you see this going down?
Hmm. To be honest, mate, I would rather wake up, look at my phone. Oh, is it Saturday? Right, I'll go back to sleep. Wake up on Sunday. Don't even want to see it. Just forget about it. Move on. Um, it's going to be tough. It is going to be tough.
Mhm.
Like we say, two very even sides battling it out, both needing the points. A manager trying not to look like he's sweating in the dugout this Saturday. You know, Kompany from his press conference looked like he was all smiles, and that I think he said that Brentford game was a bit like the Sheffield United loss that we lost in the Championship 5-2.
Yeah.
And after that, we sort of bounced back. As I said earlier, the Premier League's a different animal, but who knows? Who dares wins at the end of the day. It's going to be tough. It is going to be tough. Would I snap your hand off for a point now? Probably, because we're both in that situation where neither of us want to lose.
Yeah.
So again, it could be a cancel out. I want us to win. I want us to win. Of course I do. But away from home, a point is as good as three away from home. You need to, but these are the games you need to put to bed. Against the teams in and around you, these are the ones you need the points in. Is there going to be goals from two sides that can't really find the net? I mean, it's pointless them even being there.
Well,
Might as well just have a kick about. Um, I don't know. It's got the markings of a 0-0 to late on, and someone grabs a scrappy winner.
yeah. And I've got to be honest. I've been thinking about this. I think it will be a draw. I think it'll be a score draw because I think we'll both do something stupid at the back. And
We're awful at set pieces, so if you can capitalise on corners, then you've got us every day of the week.
yeah, well, potentially, but then again, we haven't really been seeing it. I'm hoping we can get the 3 points. I'd really like to see Iraola stay in the job. And, this is really because of his personality, his honesty. A lot of people have accused me of wanting to see him sacked. I don't at all. I just can't see, if this continues, a way out, because after this match we've got Man City and Newcastle. Now write those 2 games off.
Yeah,
Completely write those 2
yeah,
games off. And then shortly after that we've got Villa. We have got Luton as well in that sort of mix, so there might be some points there, and also Sheffield United. But I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw, and I'll be perfectly honest, I don't think it'll be enough for Iraola. I
no,
think Bill Foley will wield the axe, because he wants to see 3 points, and that's supposedly this visit was scheduled for ages. But believe of that what you will, and
yeah.
it might have
Timing
just
is everything, isn't it?
it might have just all coincided at just the right time. He might have been coming over to this game, but he's not going to want to risk being in this relegation dogfight, considering he spent 120 million. If we go down, we're going to be in big trouble, FFP wise. I can see a 1-1 draw written all over it. Both of us doing something stupid at the back, like we have been, and Iraola, unfortunately, getting sacked. Who comes in? I've been
I was going to
criticised.
say, who do you think will come in? Because there used to be a plethora of managers available, and now you're thinking, does some foreign manager come in that no one's ever heard of, and you're just like, where does Bournemouth go from that point?
Well, Iraola's our first international manager.
Yeah,
So will we go back abroad? I think, as an interim basis, and I was criticised left, right, and centre for this. And I said season, at the start of last season, I said Leeds would go down because of Jesse Marsh. However,
yeah,
because of the American connection and because of the style of football that he plays, which is a lot more direct, might be more suited to the players, I think he might get results in an interim basis, not a permanent, but an interim basis.
yeah.
And I'd be surprised. He's got Premier League experience. I'd be surprised if he's that difficult to actually bring in. But who do we bring in thereafter? Do we bring in a Graham Potter? Will he even be interested? Carlos Corberan at West Bromwich Albion
Yeah,
is
it's a
somebody
good
who
shout.
I really rate, and again, international manager. But at the same time, he's got experience in the Championship. Never done it in the Premier League, but at the same time, he has worked under David Wagner in that Huddersfield team.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that might be the best route to go down and look at somebody like that. And actually, I think he's had links with Bielsa as well, didn't he? Carlos
Yeah, yeah,
Corberan. So I think that might be the best route to go down in the long run. Will he want to leave West Brom? They're in financial mess. They're doing quite well. They're in the playoffs at the moment as it stands. But I think he'll probably jump, considering A, he'll be given money to spend in January, but B, he'll be going to a club which haven't got that burden above them unless we go down.
Would you consider doing similar to, like you said? I think you said there about Corberan at Huddersfield, and pardon me. Um, they reinstated Neil Warnock for a time. Do you think your mate Harry would be interested in going back? And I mean, we've seen the likes of
Yeah,
Shearer try to keep Newcastle up. Warnock's managed to do it with Huddersfield. Do you think Harry would be a last minute saving grace?
I'd love to see Harry take the reins. I really would. I'd love to see Harry take the reins. Does he want it now
Mm,
at this stage of his life? I think he enjoys watching the football,
yeah,
but you never know if the call is made. Would he say that one final hurrah? How many final hurrahs can you have? Um, but it might be a nice way to end his career by, keeping this club in the Premier League. And to be fair, if that is an option, I would say that surpasses Jesse Marsh all day long.
Yeah.
If that is an option, hand on heart, I don't know if he'll do it. I don't know if he'll
No.
do it. But if he does, if he will, let's do it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it'd be nice to see Harry back in the dugout as well.
Yeah, most definitely. And he's a fan of the club as well. He's a fan
Yeah.
of the club. So fingers crossed, if the worst comes to the worst for Iraola, and I don't want that to happen because I do like him, but he does need to adapt. He needs to change from this style.
Time's not on his side either, is it? Really,
No.
it's almost like you've got the weekend. We've got City, Newcastle. I'm not going to base you on that. This is a relegation dogfight against a side on par with us. Get the result or get your bags. It's
Lose
quite a tough one.
lose this game 100%, Dan. I think he'll be gone because we'll be looking at then 3 points from 12 games. Now, that's not relegation form. That is bottom of the league form. And it's only because Sheffield United are that poor. To be honest,
Yeah,
Sheffield United could have easily overtaken us because they might get a sneaky win somewhere. But that is, form of a bottom of the table side. And Bill Foley won't stand for that.
no,
And, regardless of if it's Man City or, Arsenal, Tottenham, Newcastle, he won't stand for that after 12 games. But he needs to get something this weekend. And is a point enough? No, most definitely not. Most definitely not. I think he has to go all out for the win. And if need be, he has to change that style. Has to change it to what works. Even though it might be a little bit different, a little bit foreign to him, playing in that Gary O'Neill-esque way, like he showed us on Monday Night Football. The other did you watch that? I tell you what,
yeah,
it, it was one of those things that was really insightful. I've met Gary in person, and you know, again, a lovely, lovely man, but he seemed very, very astute and very knowledgeable. Even when I met him before the Brentford game last season, and that game ended in 0-0. It was like, if they do this, we do that. And it hurt in a way because he was showing teams how to beat us. And it was so basic, but he did it in such a clever way that, a 13-year-old, in a Sunday League side could actually know what Gary O'Neill wants him to do and then pull it off and execute it. So I think we've dropped it a little bit that we should have kept him. Should have kept him all day long.
right. It's obviously cutthroat business, isn't it? I mean, a lot of people were telling companies to jump ship as soon as he got Burnley promoted because there's a chance that this could happen. Um, but it's still very early doors. I think that's another thing we need to look at here. I know that we're still we're still two teams looking at the doom and gloom at the moment, but there's still got to be that ounce of positivity that it is still quite early. Yes, we are creeping up to the halfway mark, even though it's
Yeah.
nervy times, but let's get Christmas out of the way. Let's get that over and done with. And 2024 is our year.
Well, hopefully, fingers crossed for both of us. Fingers crossed for both of us. Before you go, Dan, do
Yeah.
tell everybody as well where they can find Turf Moor House.
Yeah, so you can find us on YouTube, Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it. Facebook, TikTok, barely use that. But I need to get back into the Springer things as well because since starting a job as a chef, I've sort of had to long hours, long shifts. It does me head in, so I need to get back into it. But however, do stay with us. We don't just do Burnley content, cover England as well and other things. So yeah, feel free to hit us up, and I appreciate you asking me to come on, Craig. It's been insightful, so thank you.
Yep, not a problem at all. And it's been an absolute pleasure. The link is below, guys. So please, please, please do go and subscribe to Dan's channel. But Dan, pleasure as always. We'll no doubt catch up probably after this game as well at some point, just to
Definitely.
dissect it. We could have a different manager by then. You never know. Iraola might have pulled off, his own great escape. And we could be looking forward to the Man City game, with optimism that we might be able to do what Gary did. Let's not go too far, but but yeah, all the very, very best for the rest of the season, Dan. Of course,
Well, you
apart from
too.
this weekend, um, we need the 3 points, but then again, you do as well.
Well, thanks for having me, and I appreciate it.
Not a problem at all, mate. And thank you everybody for joining us on the show. Remember to hit the like, the subscribe, the bell button below to be alerted to any new videos we do here on Up the Cherries and All Departments. Please do also check out our recent interview with Dan Moylan from the Square Ball, where we discussed our links with Leeds United and the likes of Tyler Adams, Max Aarons, you name it. Sinistera, Jaden Anthony, of course, going the other way. They're linked with Iraola, and my slightly mad suggestion of Jesse Marsh as well. Also, do check out all of our other interviews on the show, and also do check out our preview as well of the season with Harry Redknapp. Are we getting it right? Well, we're not getting the Bournemouth position right, and we're not getting the Burnley position right either. So we'll see what happens. But until the next video, up the cherries, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you for joining us.